Hey guys, it is Chad here from the Battle Warrior Podcast, and I'm just letting all you listeners know that the Battle Warrior Podcast episodes will be available across all podcast platforms, guys. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this brand new episode today. All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the Battle Warrior Podcast. We are rolling, and we had a little issues earlier, which I really don't care. It's life, man. And we have Alundas Havens on the other side here, guys. He is the CEO, founder, Alpha Intelligence Media. I'm missing some things here, but the Winner's Paradigm podcast. He's a veteran. He's been through a lot of stuff, just like my own self. He's sober. At least I think so. What's up, man?
My man, well, thank you. And yes, sir, I am sober today.
Oh man, we've been laughing and guys, he's in my circle, so we can chit chat and goof around and have some fun. We have some friends inside, some friends around, some friends, and whatever. He's in three of my circles, so
Absolutely, brother. And thank you again. It's an honor to come on your show now. I just had you for my new podcast, Alpha Influence Media. So we're about 3 weeks away from our episode dropping. So I'm excited for that one, brother, because me and you jammed a lot about your journey and supplements, and it was really cool. I love kind of like where you're at in your journey, brother. So it's been awesome. Definitely being around somebody who knows what I'm going through and has been through similar.
and exactly when we were talking about even wrestling earlier, and I'm just like, God, it's like you're like my Kelly brother, man.
Absolutely, yeah, brother. I love wrestling. Um, Even now, so many great lessons I learned from back then to where kind of like the mindset type deal. When I went into the military, it was like, you can't beat me because I already pushed myself. We talked about you running a marathon. I'm like, oh yeah, I used to run 60 miles a day when I'd cut 23 pounds, 27 pounds for wrestling. So it was awesome, one, going through that experience, but two, like going through military. And I'm like, oh yeah, these dudes can't fucking beat me because they can't touch me on that mindset level because I've already been there. I've done it. I overcame that adversity. So it just made it a whole lot easier.
Well, in the thing that we were talking about prior to recording, and hold on here, the thing we were talking about prior to recording was, and I will explain it to you, is when you do something already, your mind already accepts you did it. So like the confidence of you going back into it and doing it is just night and day difference. Because like, especially I'm gonna go in my marathon. I already knew I ran a half marathon. So like from 0 to 13, my mind's going, I already done this before. Like, let's go. And for me, especially with you, like you were talking about wrestling, going into the going into the military. When you get the skills and you start digging into yourself, and I'm gonna let you explain this to after, but all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and your mindset's like, you already been here before, buddy. So let's just execute. You don't have any, the fear is pretty much gone. There's still fear of like accepting and getting set up for the event, but your mind goes from, oh, what is people going to say or what's going to happen to like, let's fucking go.
100%, brother. And I'd say, it's one of those consistency, but it's also perception on the way we attack it, because regardless, we've been through there. We've been through, we talked about it, me and you talked about it before we started about like going through periods. So like there was a point in time when I first started wrestling. I started in 8th grade. So it was one where I won a couple matches when I first started, and then I didn't win for a little over a year. So it was something where like I was so fascinated with losing that I stopped playing football because I ended up moving from my dad's house back with my mom, and it was one reason why I quit the football team so I could move. And I didn't want to play football anymore. And it was like I loved football. Even today, I still love football, but it was like wrestling. I was so consumed with losing, and I wanted to be good that it was like I worked on it. I wrestle a little bit different. I'm slower. I'm defensive. I work with the heavyweight. So it was like getting good at the one thing that I did well. And I would say, definitely allowed me in business to hyperfixate because I realized like, hey, this is what I really want to do. This is what I'm good at. So those are the things I started doing to execute and to really maneuver around those things and it really goes into like who we are as people. Is like we find a way to win regardless of how long it takes. We're thinking about the long game, we're thinking about being the tactician, we're thinking about our relationships, and like, oh, so now if I need something, I'm like, oh yeah, I got my boy Chad, like I can hit him up, be like, hey brother, I got a question for you. And it's something where it's like we both help each other on that, because we've been through that point where we hit the adversity and then we were able to get it over that hump.
Well, and I don't want to say reawakening yourself, but it's really weird because all of a sudden, like you go through this adversity and like you're explaining, and now, especially me going through like the marathon adversity and all this fun stuff. With me writing my second book, I'm like going back to my childhood memories, not the bad ones, like the good ones where I'm like, holy crap, I was already visualizing this thing. And I remember these events exactly of, what occurred, what equipment is. And I'm like, wait a minute, I was already visualizing then. I'm like, why can't I do it now?
100%, bro. I believe we always were though. Like we visualized us being there. We may not see it because we didn't have that clarity. We didn't get there yet. But I would say that's the cool thing is definitely going through those experiences allowed us now to be like, hey, I'm not where I need to be in business. Or in my case, it was like, dude, I put out fucking offers and nothing. You know what I mean? I put multiple offers out and nothing, no bites. Yeah, I got 2 clients. I made a little bit of money. You know what I mean? Able to pay some bills. Use Podmatch to get some guest book, like we talked about beforehand. I had to do it to pay the bill. So glad I did it. Glad I'm putting in the 10,000 hours to build my craft. Now it's time to figure out the next thing. So went into, doing a booking service. And then it was like, yeah, everybody's doing booking. So what else can I offer? Well, my partner, Zach Babcock, they do ad campaigns. So we can run ad campaigns. And then it goes into, me learning video editing. Bro, I'm not a tech guy. Hope everyone knows that. Like, I'm literally pulling up this Udemy course while I'm watching it and going as a crash course. I'm like, oh, is this? And then sending it to my team. Hey, how do you guys like this video? Like, it's something where traditionally, I would be like, oh, no, hell no, I'm not doing that. I don't know anything about tech. I don't know anything about video editing, but it's like the fact of, hey, I need to be able to figure this out. And I know in the end, this is where I want to be. This is how I can get there. And this is a service that people need. So I'm learning something. At the same time, I'm like, well, I'm not working with just anybody doing video editing. I'm going to work with people who are in impact, that are killing it with their brands, killing it with their business. So it allowed me to be able to take up and chop up these videos and even watch these 45-minute podcast interviews when I'm chopping them up. And I'm like, I actually like this because it's something where it's coming from an authentic place. And it's not that I'm just doing it to make a dollar. I'm doing it because I understand, I like what's going on.
Yeah. And this is going to branch off into another thing because my mind keeps venturing into, I'm a tech guy at church. So I help take care of the situation, the production and all that stuff. And they're training me to become a producer down the road. They're like, hey, you want to do, like, you're good behind the computer with the light setup and in the names, the slides, all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, guys, like this isn't like PowerPoint slide shit. It's like full my DMX, and I'm gonna go Apple here for 2 seconds here, but like my DMX3, which is like light, like 25 lights on stage with foggers and all this fancy shit. And then it's Pro Presenter, which is like you're running a 2-hour service, well, hour and 20, whatever. And everything's all synchronized, everything's all programmed, and I'm sitting in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute. I never noticed I'm physically learning how to run a full mastermind event. And I'm like, what? And the thing about it, like with producing and stuff, I'm like, okay, what am I training for? And yes, I'm a guy that loves being on stage. I get it. But if I can make the behind the scenes awesome for you guys, that means you guys are gonna be more elevated nationally, worldwide, whatever it is. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm a rarity when it comes to that stuff because I'm learning the behind the scenes shit of something huge that a lot of, I'm gonna say not you guys, but like some of these big time events, no one sees what happens behind the scenes. They just see forward versus what's behind them.
And I think it goes into that factor, kind of like you told me, it was Mike Fallett's event, right? When you went up stage and you started looking behind it and you're like, whoa, this is cool. And seeing everything like that, bro, it goes into it. Like, knowing that's superpower, bro. Like, people don't know that shit. And you're able to now transition that into your business, into that, and that. In my case, I didn't feel that. You know what I mean? I was my own boss in the military at context. So 19, my own boss in the Marine Corps, had an idea in my head, tore all the cartilage in my right knee, back to square one. You're not shit. And it was something where I was like, bro, I really struggled with that. I struggled. I've always said I'm an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert. So you put me in people room, I can talk, but I don't click with people on that level. I'm going to jump from conversation to conversation. But it was one where it was like the alignment issue. And then when I started the podcast and talking to people, it transitioned into like, yo, I'm just passionate about what I talk about. Like, I don't want to talk about bullshit. I love sports. Don't get me wrong. We can talk about sports all day. But if me and you were talking about sports and that's it, that's it. You know what I mean? I don't want that relationship. Exactly. But me and you could talk about sports. We can talk about
Yeah.
our businesses. We can talk about whatever. So it really goes into it. And I'd say for me, that was what I found out what I was passionate about. It was like having these conversations with entrepreneurs. My podcast is about recalibrating people's mindset and really, figuring out why winners win. So it was something where it was like, oh shit, I'm actually good at that. I totally understand, now that what I was doing is completely different than what I was thinking before, and kind of who I thought I was as a person, what kind of skills I had, in getting around the right people like yourself, brother, like definitely allowed me to be like, okay, I do add value. People love me for who I am. I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not, and whatever else.
And I'm going to say it this way, guys, pay the fucking bill to get in that room. It's worth every penny.
100%, brother. I set money aside. Actually, that was supposed to be for an ad campaign that we are going to run, and that's the money I used to go to St. Louis, and went over there, got a hotel, got to the event. Luckily, Zach helped me out with that ticket as well, to be able to get in there. But it was like so much money went into that. So like when people go to these events, I'm like, bro, it shows how much dedication you have, but like you got to pay for food, you got to pay for your not only your $500 ticket for the event, but you got to pay for your hotel. You got to pay for if you need an Uber or if you need a car. Like all these expenses go into it, but it's not about that. It's about being there on that level, the relationships you build. I started gaining that momentum there because I went up in front of people, 80 people, and I didn't even want to, but I shared my story, got emotional, started cried a little bit. And it was something where everybody's like, yo, I want to do business with you. I want to work with you. And it was different because for the first time, like people are coming up to me and talking to me and being interested in, in what I bring to the table. Hey man, you have a podcast talking about recalibrating your mindset. You unpack some crazy shit up there in front of the stage. Like, how does it contribute to the way you think? How does it to this? And I'm like, oh, this is why. This is why I'm able to go through some of these things or be really grateful for what it is. I had 5 good friends that passed away. My grandfather, who was the ideal, father figure for me. So it was something where like they passed away and I was like, yo, how do I live with my life? But now being around the right people, like they understand it because they came from a place or they have that gratitude. And it was something that was crazy for me because, going back years, bro, I didn't think anybody cared. Like I didn't think anybody got me. I thought I was a fucking crazy one. Talking to my, circle growing up, my family, like, you know what the hell you're talking about? You're the crazy one. And it's like, bro, that's not how the world actually is.
Yeah, and what's happening now, guys, is when you're kind of a little crazy in a good way in your head, you start attracting people that are a little crazy and gutsy and risky in your head.
Oh, 100%. And it goes into it though. Like if you think about it, like if you ask your friends, wherever who they are. So when I used to drink, I'd ask my friends about certain shit. I want to start a podcast. Everybody's starting a podcast. Or to be like, are you going to be drunk and doing a podcast? And I'm like, yeah, we don't want to hear me just harassing the shit out of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it goes into it as like having the other friends that are like, hey, bro, I have this problem, right? Well, let's figure the fuck out. You know what I mean? One of my buddies calls me, hey, man, I have a leads problem. Like, shit, me too. Let's figure it out together. So we went to lunch and we figured out what we were going to do for leads. So it's like the difference in those relationships, people you surround yourself with, even when you have those tough days, you can hit them up, hey, bro, this happened today, or like I have this expense for business, like how do I manifest the shit? We talked about Nick Wingo, like I hit this dude up all the time and I'm like, hey bro, like how do I come off as nicer? Because sometimes when I do perceive a thought or I see something firsthand on the way I'm thinking, it can come off as arrogant or aggressive, and that's not the way I try to think. It's just that's the way I am, and if you don't like it, f off. And it's like that's not always the best way to go about things. So it's having that growth but having that humility at the same time, and your friends are going to acknowledge that.
Well, and the thing about being extrovert, introvert, I think the best way of saying it, especially people that are like hyperactive and can't sit still and all that, like when we show passion, it almost comes at you as a bulldozer. And I don't want to say it that way, but it's like, hey, blah, 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 and we just come at you. And it's not, we don't do it on purpose, guys. It's just, we get very fired up about something. And the secondly, what I learned about it is, at least with myself, people are like, dude, you gotta slow down, you gotta learn the details and blah blah. And I'm like, no, like, dude, I'm a risk taker. I'm an action guy. I'm gonna fuck up no matter what. So just take action, fuck up, figure out what I need to fix, take action again. And this is where I like butt heads with my corporate world. I'm gonna say corporate world because I'm still in both worlds, but they're like, slow down, everyone in corporate's gonna see that you're messing up and blah blah blah. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay. And this is where the arrogance kicks in. I don't say it out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm only gonna be here for like 5 more fucking years. And secondly, I know guys that make your salary in like a week. So it's like, do I really listen to you or do I just keep doing my thing?
I 100% agree with that. And I felt like that was something for me, when I used to work position like that, towards like they couldn't even think of us as people and the things we have going on with us. It was about the mission, and it really was like, yo, is this really what I'm trying to do? Is this really who I am as a person? And telling somebody, hey, you can't take this time off. Like now, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want because the people that I look up to, like that's what they do. Why do they do it? Why do they jump into it? That I'd say also, jumping into entrepreneurship. Um, I did it because my nanny moved to Minnesota. I'm taking care of the little one and running the business. And now I'm working 60, 80 hours as a business owner when I said I wasn't going to do it. And it was like, hey, why did you start this? You need to be better. You need to be more intentional. You need to get up earlier. That meant waking up at 3 a.m. to go to the gym. I meant taking it into it. It meant, getting upset because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that keep posting this shit about, oh, killing in business, but then they don't, you know what I mean? They physically don't look good. And if you have a health related issue, cool. You know what I mean? I'm not going to knock you on that. But like, if you have the ability to do something about it and you blatantly don't do it, like that shows it. You're not showing up in that area of your life. If you can acknowledge it, cool. You know what I mean? You've done the work. You're able to start moving forward. But if you're the one that's like, oh, I'm fucking killing it, and then you're over here posting, drinking beers and fucking not doing anything, feet kicked up, and it's like, bro, when are you putting that time in for yourself? You know what I mean? When are you showing the example to your kids? When are you showing it to your business, to your employees, of what it looks like to put that work in the business, and then make sure you dominate, with the mindset, being in the gym, doing whatever you got to do to make sure you're rolled in and checking off all those areas of life. And I'd say that's definitely what, my last position taught me.
Yeah, and let's tap into the 3 a.m. thing because like I said, today I started at 3 a.m. You do 3 a.m. a lot. And the more we learn and the more we're in the industry, the more you hear the echoes of 3 a.m., 3:30, and 4 a.m.
So,
Why?
okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, no, no. I didn't know if
Well,
you were leaving open for me.
well, I was gonna say, like, what have you learned from that? Because I'm looking at this the same as a separator. Like for me, I'm looking at this whole situation and say, I'm getting up before everyone else is getting up. I'm getting my shit done before everyone else is getting done. Obviously, there was a dozen people in the gym today with me, but whatever. I just look at it as the more I do everything differently than everyone else, finally I'm gonna and get the 1% thing. So like, there's billionaires that wake up at 4 a.m. If I start doing all these actions of what billionaires are doing or millionaires, eventually I'm gonna be one.
Yes. So I'm about to switch gyms pretty shortly here. I'm about to switch gyms because I don't understand how this gym's packed at 3:30. But whatever, that's another conversation for later. But yeah, brother, I agree with you. You got to look at what successful people do, and if they're getting up that early, yeah. So I'd say that's originally where it went into. Is like I always heard that from especially great salespeople. They said like, "Oh, I go to the gym at 4 a.m. I'm just alert going to work." I do the same thing. And it was something where I did home improvement sales, and it was, working the 12, 15 hours, covering 3.5 counties in Southern California. It definitely clicked to me that I need to be on my fucking A game every single day, or I'm not going to make no money. And then it went into, the 3 a.m. deal was I was already getting up at 4 to go to the gym because my wife leaves at 6 then. So I was like, I can get the 2 hours in, I can meditate a little bit before the day starts. And then my wife started going to work at 5:15. So I was like, yo, I got to get up at 3 so I can be able to get this workout in. And then I got to be able to meditate because the baby wakes up at 6:15. So I want to at least have an hour before the baby gets up that I'm meditating, taking care of myself. I'm writing down what I need to. Um, we also talk about time management. So one of the things that I do and I've gotten better at because I put the hours in is I'm able to publish a podcast like in 30 minutes sometimes. So it went from a couple hours or trying to find the bio to that to 20 minutes. Like I can do it like that. So now I have that hour window to where it's like I get a meditation in, I do my little ab workout even after the gym, because I put that in my non-negotiables because I was one of those dudes. I'll do the abs later and then never fucking do it. So it's something where I'm like, hey, do a little bit here. I can do a little bit tonight before I go to sleep. But it was being more intentional with that. And I would say that's also what clicked is, I'm working on it now to get more sleep. And that's where I'm more open about that. It's like, hey, working on get more sleep. There are some times I take 10, 15, 30-minute naps during out the day so I can be able to go through because I'm not going to sleep till 10 or 11 sometimes. But it's like the process of putting that work in, showing up, being strategic on it. A lot of times I can be able to get my work done by 2 p.m., 1 p.m. to where I'm just like messing around, hanging out with the daughter, once it comes into there, because I'm like, oh, I got all these things done. Definitely now, learning the video editing side, like that is well needed for me to be able to have the hours I need to get what I need done.
Well, and I was going to say, my mind clicked on the 75 hard when I actually woke up at 3:30 or 3 o'clock today and went to the gym. I'm like, where am I going to get these two workouts in? Because I was running and I was this. I'm like, there's no fucking time. And all of a sudden I woke up. I'm like, and I went to the gym. I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, we just figured out hack for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm too, brother. I'm gonna do that pretty shortly here. I just found out about 75 hard. You can do one workout for 45 minutes. That's stretching. So that's one something like I didn't even fucking know about, and I prevented myself from doing that. So pretty shortly here, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go and visit family next week, and then probably next month, maybe even start it. And that's kind of one of my things is like learning, like, how are we going to be able to make those things happen? How am I able to do both things? Well, one of those ways I can do that is I can be able to wake up at 3 a.m., go to the gym and have my outside workout. And then I can be able to walk with my family, maybe not for 45 minutes, but it could be like 20-minute walk and then 25 minutes me doing abs outside. And that can count for the 45 minutes. So it was something learning like, hey, you can make this definitely strategic for yourself. And the other thing is my wife's fucking amazing when it comes to meal plans and sticking to it. I'm not. I'm like, yo, I'm tired. Let's get some pizza. Let's get whatever. So it's really like dialing in those aspects. Now, waking up that early gives me that foundation to do that. And again, I go with my body, because some days I have really bad joints, elbows, knees, shoulders, hips. So it's one of those, like, some days I have to get up late and I have to put CBD on all day and be able to go through that process. But now I know even with 75 hard, I can still hit both of those two things, whether traveling or doing whatever. So it definitely allowed me to switch up, getting up earlier, being more intentional with what I'm doing. Because I realized like, yo, I got to be able to learn this. Started in video editing. That takes a couple of hours a day. So I no longer can just like BS around or whatever sometimes.
Yeah. In what I didn't really, well, here's the honest answer. When you own a business, you start realizing all the hacks and spots that you put time in and do focus and work on books and all that stuff. Like, you can accomplish everything, guys. It won't happen overnight, but like, you can write your book. So it'd be like 20 minutes here, figure something out. All right, go do whatever. It just, whatever it is for me is time blocks. So you just nail it, get it done over with. Okay, into the next thing, and then go take time to go for a walk. Go take time to go down to the river. Go take time to talk to God. Like for me, I like go sit on a rock down by the lake, just chat.
Bro, it's so peaceful in nature being able to do that.
Yeah, and we just get so reset, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Or here's the thing I joke about: my cigar sessions. Guys, I'm not addicted to them. It's just it's life gets so much better at times, and I don't do pot. I don't do any of that stuff. Like for me, just it's a manly thing. Like,
Oh yeah.
you just
See,
chill with the cigar.
you posted that. I was actually gonna message you last night. I thought I sent it, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because I'm on the first. That was the first day of the detox. I was already feeling like shit. So I'm like, so glad I didn't send the text. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what I would have said, but it was one of those for me. Like that's kind of what it was. Is I got into cannabis a little bit, and it was really like processing trauma. And I would use it to sit outside, bro, and just cry my fucking eyes out, and then journal it. And I'm like, why do I feel this way? Why do I do that? It was different because it's not like I'm just getting high, just it's like, no, I'm getting outside, I'm sitting out there, I'm thinking, I'm meditating, I do a little bit of abs, and then I'm like, yo, what is going on? Like, why am I angry? Why was I upset today? Why did I yell at my wife? Why did I want to hit my dog? And it's like, oh, because of this, I got frustrated. I can't control things. Well, now you have something to work off of. So definitely having that cigar time, doing what you got to do. I love plant-based medicine for those reasons, is it allows you to like tap into those things that traditionally would be difficult for us.
Yeah, and honestly, if I wouldn't need to have a drug test to be at work, I would be on a little bit of microdose and a little bit of weed. And I will say that out loud, guys. Sometimes you need something to kind of like pull your addictions away. Not say pull it away, but like counteract. And the thing that I looked at with some of these things is yes, they can be addictive. I get it. Chewing all that, like I don't chew. I chew beef jerky. It works. But what it is your mind just starts settling down and you start opening up these avenues. And finally we're like, okay. And seriously, guys, like I smoked a cigar, came back, started writing for like an hour and a half of my book.
That is awesome, brother.
It's just you go.
That's definitely what I was gonna say. Is I know that process with your book is strenuous, and it's one of those where I know you definitely have writer's block sometimes. You're like, man, I don't know what I can write about. It doesn't make sense because I go through the same thing, bro. Like, and that's one of them that I like doing. Was like when I would be hashing these things out or whatever. Like I would literally be sitting there, getting in that framework, crying it out, and I'm like, how am I gonna do my post tomorrow to motivate people? I'm like, I'm gonna talk about this. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tap into this shit I don't want to talk about. I'm gonna talk about the internal belief system or like some of the things my mom said and like that's too hard. I don't want to do that. That can be difficult. I may not like this. Like, no, you know what I mean? So for me, it was awesome, tapping into those and allowing myself to heal, but not only heal, like to touch all those areas and be like, hey, this is what it is, accept it for what it is. Because even, some of the internal beliefs from how I was younger is like, that's the way they process it. My parents are narcissistic, so they forced me to think that way. And, unfortunately, sometimes that's the program we have, is we think that that's reality and it's not, So for me, it allowed me to tap into that and then be like, yo, I don't care what they think. Like, this is how I feel. This is where I'm at. It's coming from a place of being genuine, not me, being hateful and saying these things. No, I'm saying it because I want other people to know, like, this is what it's like. This is what it's like when they question you. They say you can't do something and then you do it. And it's like, oh, I didn't know you can do that. Yeah, me either, but I did it.
He's definitely going to be coming back here, guys, before my voice is completely blown. But we're going to have him back for the second one, talk about a story. We just talked into business right away. That's how we are, guys. We don't need to answer that one. But where can everyone find you?
Absolutely, brother. So easiest way to be able to find me is the Winners Paradigm podcast, thewinnersparadigm.com. And then the second podcast should be out by the time you release this. So it's going to be Alpha Influence Media, and that's going to be talking about business, Winners Paradigms Mindset. So I will have you on Alpha Influence Media in about 3 weeks.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Like I said, we're gonna cut it even because my voice is completely blown. But you got a welcome back card anytime, man.
You as well, brother. I appreciate you, my friend. We'll stay in touch.
All right.